Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 108 of Sports Management Podcast. Before we start, I have checked the podcast statistics and 40% of you who listen to this do not subscribe to the podcast. So please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It will help the show grow, and the bigger the show, the bigger the guests. Thank you. Today's guest is Jessie Vilkofsky, the team administrator for the NWSL team Houston Dash. She's a former professional soccer player who transitioned into the front office of soccer. She's the former GM of Dallas Sidekicks, the first female GM in the history of the club. Get ready to learn why she changed from GM to team administrator, what she learned from playing professional soccer in Poland, how it is like working in a male-dominated field, the challenges of being a young female GM, and much more. This was Jessie's first podcast appearance, and she went all in. She shared stories she has only told family and close friends before, and we spoke about everything from soccer to journaling and the importance of finding your why. I hope you will enjoy this episode as much as I did. Here is Jessie Vilkofsky. Jessie Vilkofsky, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. Thank you.
I'm really excited to speak with you today. You have had a very interesting career in a short time. You have managed a lot. So first of all, welcome. And if you want to talk a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm Jessie Vilkofsky, born and raised in Pittsburgh, PA. Definitely have a crazy story as far as making it into where I'm at today. You know, the golden piece of my life, the golden thread through everything and anything I do has always been soccer. My passion, my love, and everything that's provided me has led me to sit where I am today and to go through all the experiences that I've lived through, both personally and professionally. And so, I played, I got to play Division II soccer in a small Jesuit Catholic school, and got to go there on an athletic scholarship, and kind of drove me to, again, living through my passions and my dreams. And that kind of guided me through graduating and then falling into collegiate coaching and moving through my career to playing professional and now in a sports business setting. So, I give everything that I have to this game and everything that has led me to achieve in my life so far. And so I definitely love to be able to share and give my story. And that's part of I feel my purpose in life is that I get to live kind of in a risky way and take chances and do things that, a lot of people from my where I grew up, they don't normally do. And so I take a lot of pride in that I get to live on edge and kind of show that things are possible, and especially for young females and young women in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that soccer has been a big part of your life, and you have, done most of it. You have been a player, you have been a coach, you have been assistant coach, you have been general manager, and now team administrator. So to go back to the very beginning, what was it with soccer and how did you get into soccer?
Sure. Yeah. So I started, parents put me in when I was about 4 years old. It gave me a sense of freedom, is what I always say, is that I always felt free on the field. I was the kid that was in the front yard every day, juggling, playing with the ball, no shoes on. And no one ever had to tell me to go play. No one ever had to tell me to go train extra, because I loved it so much and being outside. And so I got into the game, played a little bit of, rec soccer association is what we called it where I was from. I got into club level when I was a sophomore in high school. So I started super late compared to the way and how competitive it is now. But back then and where I was from, the resources weren't as great and as extended to all of us. And so, I took advantage of that for 2 years and had a couple Division III offers and looks, a couple Division IIs. I had one D1. And it was, one of those places where, I knew I wanted to play, and I didn't really have a place where I desired to go. I just wanted to be on the field and be with the team. And obviously go to college and get an education for a long-term future. But yeah, it all started the backyard type of ball game, grassroots, and just following that love and that freedom that I got to feel outside of my everyday life.
And I know that I read that in sixth grade, your teacher asked you on the first day to write down what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, you know, all teachers do. And you wrote that you want to be a professional soccer player. And then you looked around and no one else had written that. They had written the more classical roles.
Correct.
And you erased it.
Yes, I did. Oh, you found that story. That's good. Yeah. Yes, that is, but honestly, it's a very, it's a pivotal moment, right? Because it seems so far out of reach. And I was embarrassed. Once everyone started reading around, the teacher picked the back corner. I'll never forget where I was sitting and they started reading their, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get laughed at right now. Like, people are going to look at me and be like, what do you mean? Like, how are you going to be a professional soccer player? And yeah, I erased it. And do I regret it? No, because I can reflect on it now and I've learned from it. And now I'm using it to tell my story that you can, right? If you do put your mind and you put the effort in. And so, yeah, I erased it. And that's the fun. I don't even remember what I put. I can't even remember the what job I put, just something though, right? To quickly, because the teacher was going to collect the responses afterwards as well. And so, yeah, it was an identifying moment in my young life for sure.
Yeah, but it speaks to a lot also because I don't know how many, like nowadays it starts to become a lot of role models in women's soccer.
Sure.
A couple of years ago, it wasn't as many as I mean, it becomes more and more all the time. So that's I feel like it's a very inspiring story that you did make it anyway, and you had these doubts, but you went through with your dream and you became a professional soccer player. So in the end, you reached it.
Sure, yeah, and you know, that attests to the mentality and the vision that you have for yourself, right? I wasn't in a big school that had people going to play professional. I wasn't around people that were thinking that they wanted to play professional, and so. Which attests to where I'm at today, surrounding yourself with people of high influence that can push you in the way of your dreams of where you want to go. And so, yeah, it wasn't even a thought for people to even consider, right? It was more like, oh, I want to be a professional like the people on TV. And that was it. So, you know, as you grow through and you realize the little milestones that you achieve and you know, in school and graduating college and becoming a captain, like small moments like that, it builds your confidence over time to be able to go achieve something greater than what anybody else could see for yourself.
In 2018, you moved to Poland to play. And speaking of, you know, confidence booster and moving to another country, and how was that experience?
Poland was life-changing for me. And, you know, it's funny, it was the facade to say, I'm going to go live my childhood dream. I'm going to go play soccer. But when I always reflect on my journey to get to Poland, right? The year before I graduated with my master's degree from New Mexico State, and everybody was telling me, go be a head coach, go be a women's head coach. You're young, you're enthusiastic, you're in the game. We need women coaches. And, you know, I had a crossroads, and it was like everyone wanted me to go to the left to be a coach. And I just didn't feel that, right? And that's part of, again, growing, trusting your intuition. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go chase my dream. I'm going to go do what I said back in sixth grade that I erased out of fear and self-doubt and unworthiness. And I'm going to go chase my passion, what I love to do, and see if I can do it. And in the year that I trained up until I flew to Poland in 2018, that was the most life-changing year because I was working a full-time job. I was living in a spare bedroom of a married couple. And I was just, you know, making ends meet, training every day. And I look back now and I can't believe I did it. You know, I can't believe that when I'm tired and I don't want to go to the gym today, you know, and I look back on that time in my life, I look at myself now and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know, you can do it if you have the mentality or the goal, right? And so when I got to Poland in June of 2018, I have a journal entry from it. When I landed in Poland and the airplane hit the ground, I told myself, okay, it's time to go have fun. just go do your thing. Nothing else mattered, because I was so confident. I was so ready based upon the year of training that I did, because the year of training, I broke down so many walls about myself, so many barriers. I learned so much about myself and balancing work and training and mentality. And I was so confident in my abilities that when I got to Poland, I knew that it was just time for me to go there and let myself be free on the field and just let everything show. And when I got to Poland, it was, one of those moments of just realizing how much, when you invest in yourself and you invest in a vision that nobody else sees, and how many times I got called crazy, and how many times people said, well, do you know somebody in Poland? And I was like, no, I don't know anybody in Poland, but I'm going, because I wanted it that bad. And you make it work. If you want something, you make it happen. Where there's a will, there's a way. And when I got there, I knew I was going to go meet people. I was going to go play soccer and play a sport that is a universal language, right? Everybody knows soccer. So put a ball at my feet and give me some people on the field and let's go play, And so that's what I got to do and got to live for a year.
That's awesome. Why Poland? Was it because did the team reach out, or was it a place you wanted to go to, or?
So it's kind of twofold. So I am part Polish, and I actually have ancestry in Krakow, which is about 6 hours south of where I played. But the true story of my journey to playing professional is I didn't have money for an agent. I didn't know anything about playing professional overseas, right? And so what I did is when I was at that crossroads, and I said I was going to go play, I made an Excel spreadsheet and I picked 10 countries. And I was like, I could live here, I could live here, 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 and here. And I found every single team in every league in that country. And I made a full database, and I still have it today. And it's every team, contact, stadium, phone numbers, head coaches, emails, everything. And I emailed every country a player resume that I made, with a photo and some data on me, the little bit I had. And so I emailed all the countries, and I heard back from maybe 10 or so, and I some no's, but literally 90%, 95% did not respond. And I got one tryout offer from the Medic Conan team, and they were in Extra Liga at the time. And they said, yeah, if you want to come over and try out, come try out. But it was on my own dime, right? It was one of those things that I knew I had to do and I wanted to do. So I made it happen, right? And I went there because they told me I could come try out for the team. So I tried out for I think I was there for 3 days. And on the 4th day, they told us about if we were going to get a contract. So it was me and one other American from California. And so this is another ironic part when, talking about trusting yourself and building intuition, building confidence in your journey and what you're doing. And I'll never forget, I was in the van. We were driving to the manager's house, the senior manager who makes the decisions, the owner. And I was texting my mom, and I was like, I don't think if they offer me a contract, I'm going to stay. And she was like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Like, you wouldn't stay. Why? And there was just something about being there that I would have felt okay if they did offer me a contract and I said no. And I went home. I knew that I still felt the accomplishment of everything that I built leading there. Right. And so I was prepared if I got offered a contract, I was going to say no, because I didn't feel comfortable being there. From a sense of just my intuition, right? Like the team was great. The organization was phenomenal. The facilities, the city, everything. But there was just something telling me this wasn't right. And so when I got there and they actually didn't offer me a contract, which in my mind, in my heart, I was like, oh, thank God. Okay. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go home. Like, that's fine. And so, but then they offered to send me to another team to try out, which was in Liga 1, KKP, Bydgoszcz. And so I got picked up by 2 players the next day and went there for 4 days and tried out. And then I knew when I was there, I felt like I could make an impact on that team and their goals and the head coach and everything. And so I got offered a contract there and committed there for the year.
Yeah, because you stayed for one season and then you did good job, as you said, like you want to make an impact. You did. They wanted to extend with you, but you wanted to go back home.
Correct. Yes, they offered to, because we won our Liga, our conference. Essentially, we won the Liga, and the team got promoted to Extra Liga, which is the top league in Poland. And yes, they wanted to. They offered me another contract to stay. I turned it down. It wasn't. I felt that I achieved what I wanted to. And then there's also the other part that there's only so much that I could find outside of the visa I was working on was just for playing, right? And so I couldn't go get another job. I started school. I started a second master's degree there in international business, which was absolutely amazing because I got to learn and meet people from all over the world at WSG. And so I did that, but it just wasn't enough for me to just play soccer anymore. And so I felt complete. I felt at peace, with my journey and achieving that dream of mine. And I was ready to take the next step in my career, which is getting into which at the time was getting into some type of sports business. And I wasn't sure what that looked like.
Yeah, because then things happen pretty quickly on the managerial side of sports. You started your own venture, Jolt Vitality, in 2020. I don't know, is that something that's still going on or?
Yes, it's behind the scenes. It's funny you bring that up because I've been working on it the past few months, like slowly. It's more about right now, I'm just kind of breaking down the ultimate goal. Outside of it involves soccer, it involves women's soccer, it involves the youth, it involves investment in the game, and I'm finding out the avenues of what that looks like right now. It has transformed a lot over the last 2-3 years, but the space I'm in now and how much I'm learning, and taking my energy and my passion to grow the game, that's where it's going to go in that direction for sure, to grow investment for the game.
That's awesome. So yeah, then you moved on to become, you were working as an assistant coach and an adjunct professor at the Rogers State University. And from there, you went to the Dallas Sidekicks.
Yes.
You went into a director position, director of operations first. So how was that to go into a director position from at a young age and coming as a player into the business world?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's honestly, the transition wasn't super difficult. You go from, playing all of your life, and I'm from a family that were blue collar hard workers, in the steel mills, and just you get your job done, right? And so I've always applied and been an advocate for hard work, open-mindedness. And so when I got into the Sidekicks organization, I knew that I had to go in there and just basically make everything run smoothly, right? I had to go in there and clean up. I had to go in there and organize. I had to go in there and put basic skills together for a high level effort, a high level capacity. And so for me, I saw the bigger vision when I was interviewing for there, and I knew there was a path for me that I was able to achieve. And so when I got the director of ops role, and it was, let's put all the logistics together, let's make everything efficient. For me, that's bread and butter in my life, and everything I've achieved. I've never been handed anything. It's because I work hard and I'm very open-minded to any opportunity, and I take advantage of that to learn and grow and expand myself. Every coaching job, playing, everything has always been because I earn it, and I take very, very much pride in that.
Yeah, as you should. And, listening to your story, you said that you didn't have an agent. You were doing all this research yourself, as long with your training, working as side of, playing. So that really speaks to what you're saying now. And I read that your father is an entrepreneur, and you said that you come from a family of hard work. So how much have that impacted you?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, my parents were separated when I was young. And so my mom, raised me on her side and worked her 9-to-5 job. And then my dad started his own company, and he still has it today. And so I got to see both sides of the business world, if you will, right? And it tremendously impacted, because I got to see you could live both ways, right? And you can make things work, but again, it's with a lot of hard work. And so it heavily influenced not only my ability to to be successful in my own perception, my eyes, in every job that I take. But it also, especially with both my mom and my dad, the ability to how do you say it? Like to see opportunities for things again from the day I erased my dream in sixth grade to looking at life now that there's opportunities and potential and possibilities out there. But at the end of the day, you just got to get things done and do things in a timely order. And so I always saw my parents working. I always saw them doing everything they could to take me to soccer practice or drive me an hour away or to tournaments and letting me live my life while they were still, managing everything that they had to do. And so both of my parents are my rocks and my foundation in who I am and what I do today. There's no question about that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, back to Dallas Sidekicks.
Yeah.
You started as director of operations, then director of marketing the year after, and then finally you became the general manager. So how was that to be the general manager at such a young age?
Sure. Yeah. No, being the GM was challenging in the sense that, you're taking on a role, you're being a female in the male dominated space, and I'm young. And so there was a lot that played into the overall, I guess, just assumption of what that job should look like and be like. I am very blessed that I got to be in the sales and marketing role, and I got to be in the operations because those foundation roles allowed me to build confidence and be a better GM because I knew the business in and out. I knew our sales margins. I was making those spreadsheets. I was doing those PowerPoint presentations and teaching employees about everything and Ticketmaster. Like I knew I had my hands in everything at Sidekicks. And that allowed me that helped me become a better GM because I was more well-rounded as a business person. But, being a GM is not something that you can just walk into and be successful because there's so much. I didn't have enough time there to become a successful GM. I got to, put process in and build relationships and help kind of clean things up and coordinate. But there's a lot that goes into just building relationships with players and understanding that, you have to get to know people and know their goals and their values so that you can make the best for them and the organization itself. So there's a lot that plays into understanding players, understanding the coaching staff, negotiating, right? Understanding your own tactics for negotiating and buying Chris Voss's book on learning negotiation tactics, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to learn this type of stuff. And so, I was reading that book before I got the role in preparation of, okay, I need to learn little things, body language, understanding tones of voices and reading. And it's just, there's so much that can play into it. And so I was new. And I knew that in order for me to be confident, in order for me to be as successful as I could be in that role at that time of my career, I had to do everything I could to prepare ahead of time so that I can, try to make a minor stamp in that organization at that time with that role. And
you were also the organization's first female GM.
Correct.
Was that creating pressure for you?
No, I wouldn't say so. I like the idea of the far-fetchedness, right? Like being the first female GM. I will say that, it got, if I can just be transparent about it, it got really annoying, for lack of better terms, because I was going to networking events or I was going to community events and, somebody I would be talking to and then another person would walk up and like, oh, hey, this is Jessie Vilkofsky, the first female GM in the NWSL and for Sidekicks. And before I got the role, I wanted that. I wanted to be told from an egotistical standpoint. And the more I kept hearing it, I was like, why am I being just labeled for that? It's a stamp that I got to achieve, but let me do the job now. Let me just be Jessie Vilkofsky. You don't need to add these extra. And, it's great when you get to educate like right now, or when you're doing an event and I get to speak on behalf of achieving something, a milestone in the MASL and Sidekicks. But when it comes to, your everyday, there wasn't any pressure with that role because I knew what I was doing and what I wanted to go after. But it's also, I think, super important to understand that labels and, achieving these big milestones that get all over social media and stuff like that, that's not the end game, right? It's about understanding who the person is. You could have a great CEO of a company, but they could be not a great person, right? And so I think it's really important to highlight that just because you're in a high role or you have a great title, that doesn't mean that you're a prestigious person. You, like my dad would always tell me, they put their pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time. Well, most likely one leg at a time, right? And so
otherwise it's impressive.
Unless it's impressive, yeah. And so, and those little things, I used to shake my head at my dad when he would tell me that, but I see it now, And so, yeah, there was definitely no pressure. It was more, I get fueled off of that excitement to achieve something now that's outside of my comfort zone. So
I see that point with the annoyance that you always focus on that part and not being yourself. But I also see the value in that. We talked about role models when you were a player.
Sure.
I mean, for young women now to look up to you, to see that it's possible and that you can achieve it, and just to do that first step.
Yes,
I feel like that's really important for women in the sports industry.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. You got to achieve the milestones. So yes, definitely glad you're pointing that out. Getting the titles is great. Achieving the milestones is great, but it's understanding that there's more depth in the person outside of just that title. And so again, someone can be a big billionaire, millionaire, but when you get to know them, is it someone that you want to be around with, be influenced with, right? And so balancing that is super important. That's something I like to educate, younger people on, is understanding that. But yes, I agree with you as well.
So I spoke a while ago with Adam White from Front Office Sports about challenges of being a young executive. And he said that if you're in these big board meetings, maybe they're not taking you as seriously, and people twice your age, what do you know? You are so young and so forth. Have you experienced some challenges with regards to, being a young GM?
Yes, definitely a couple, but the big ones, I would say, there's definitely, and being a female really it does make a difference walking into a room when you're a young female with all men, right? But being young in general, a couple things that really struck me with, especially being at the Sidekicks, not letting your emotions get the best of you. If something didn't go my way, or I didn't get a player I wanted to sign, or I had one contract negotiation that absolutely tore me because I know I didn't get exactly what I wanted. And I let those emotions drive me the rest of the day. For example, it's about not carrying yesterday's problems, yesterday's struggles into today. And so, that was a big challenge for me, is just separating your emotions, letting the water settle down, and seeing everything clearly and smoothly. So that was one big thing that, my mentor taught me. And the other thing is, I think it's super important, is not to be a yes person or yes man, yes woman, because it's very easy when you're young and you have an older, more wiser executive looking at you, giving you advice or telling you what to do, and you just say yes. So I got to a point once I grew into the sales and marketing role, and I was essentially, I had built everything for the most part, or I had my hands in it, and I was able to challenge. I was able to say, no, I don't think we should do that, because logistically speaking, you want something done in 2 weeks that needs at least a month if we want to do it right. And so that was another big piece for like a challenge, that I was always saying yes. When I was the director of ops, I was emailing people at 10 p.m. at night. I was, making sure I was doing everything for everybody else. And then I lost that balance for myself because I got lost in my work. And so there's definitely a line where you need to be able to say no and say, you know what, I will get to that email tomorrow, and I will go do something for myself today, type of thing.
Does that go into a little bit also? I read that your catchphrase is never settle.
Oh, yes. Never settle. That's what my mom preached to me every single day when I was young. Yes, you have to never settle in everything you do, from what you're going after to what you're aspiring to be, what you love to do. And so I'm a very big advocate to have that mentality, because I'm living it, and I'm still living it today, that I've never settled for where I'm at today and being comfortable. And so I think it's really important, if it's for you and your path. It's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to go be a big executive or go own a company or be an entrepreneur, and that's fine. But it's never settling in maybe your happiness. And so, yes, never settle in anything you do.
For sure. You mentioned mentorship as well.
Mm-hmm.
How important has that been for you in your career?
Oh my gosh, life-changing. Yes, between my parents, which I guess, you want to call them mentors, but I had a very, very influential mentor, and I still do today, that worked with me since I started at Sidekicks. And I still talk to him today. And he was the very big proponent in everything from my growth as a young to let's say a more mature sports business executive. And because I would have all the emotions, and I would be very, oh my God, all these things are happening. And he would just look at me and say, okay, what are you going to do about it? And it really, he always challenged me. And so, that's super important, that having him as someone to fall back on and to get leadership from, and those influences, positive influences, that you can have a solid foundation to fall back on. I truly don't believe I would be here in this role where I'm at now, and at the mindset I have, with the knowledge and the wisdom I have, if I didn't have him. Now, I could still achieve it, but he definitely made the transition and the process a lot smoother, for sure, a lot smoother, and a lot more, just very helpful. I'm so blessed to have him.
Well, that's a topic that comes up a lot here with mentorships, and also with the role models. And I mentioned before that most certainly you are a role model for young women in the industry who wants to either on the professional soccer side or on the managerial side. So do you have right now, or have you had any female role models in sports business?
Mm-hmm. So I have connected with many sports business women on LinkedIn and throughout my career, all the head coaches I would always look up to. And right now, honestly, my boss is a role model for me, the GM of the Houston Dash, and even the president of the club as well, because they're both females and they're both young. And I look up to them in what they're doing here at this top level organization. And I get to learn from them, especially the GM every day. And so it's very influential to be around women. And that was a big part of why I wanted to come here as well, because I knew that I could grow with other females in this league and in this space. And it's inspired me tremendously to see what can be done being alongside other power women in this field.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because you were the general manager at Dallas Sidekicks. And if you're just looking at the titles,
Mm-hmm.
now you're a team administrator. So versus a GM. And we have talked about, never settle, chasing your dreams. So Yep. What was it with the Houston Dash that, really attracted you, and why you wanted to work for them?
Sure. Yes. And that's a great question. And I'm glad we're talking about this, because again, labels are great only to a certain extent. Again, I know what I want to do, and talking about never settling. And I have longed to be in the NWSL. It was something 2 years ago. Would you say that I could be here? I wasn't sure if I believed it, but putting the work in at Sidekicks put me in a place mentally where I put the foot down on the pedal and went full throttle. And I got to, interview with the GM and some other people in the Dynamo organization, the president, and hearing their vision, hearing what they're passionate about, the community side, building a brand and building an impact in this community here in Houston, outside of just the soccer side. The soccer side is the fun side, right? It's the fun side, but it's the easier side. For me, it's the business side and building something that creates impact for a community. So when I got to learn about this organization and see that, again, talking about Poland, your intuition, I knew the first team, I didn't want to be there. But when I went to the second team and they offered me a contract, put me on that boat and I will jump ship if I have to. And that's exactly what I felt here at the Dash, is just that sense of camaraderie and that sense of the work ethic to just go make something better. And I knew I could come in here and I trusted the role. I looked at the role in the job description and I was like, that's no problem for me. And again, knowing that there's future aspirations, hopefully that I can achieve another milestone here with the organization after proving myself that there will be more for me to put my hands in and touch and kind of help grow in other ways and come to fruition in a greater light. But right now, it's the last point I want to say about this is, I am a team admin and I love it. And I'm more alive in myself. I'm more alive in my work because I am around people that are pushing every day. There's a standard and expectation that you don't have to try to push and motivate every day. It's already here. And so you have to rise up to the standard, right? You have to rise up to the expectations and be your best you every single day. And I love that. And being the team admin, I have a direct relationship with the team, the girls, the coaches, and I get to help them and I get to build processes to make their life easier. I get to make, the travel easier and more fluid. I get to help the GM and take things off of her plate, right? And so when people were looking at me and texting me and calling me and saying, "What? Are you sure a team admin? Like you're going to be a team admin after being a GM?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me. Just know that I'm happy." I was like, if you see me now versus 6 months ago or a year ago, I'm a different human spiritually because I've found a place where I'm needed and I feel I'm making a positive impact. And so, again, titles are great. The GM title was great. And it did help me become in this role better because I understand things from the GM role already. I understand things from the sales and marketing role. And I can come here and just do this. It's not a simple job, but I can go put these processes in place like I did as director of operations. And I get to be completely happy and free here. Like I've always felt on a soccer field. That's how I feel here at the Dash. And so I'm so blessed and grateful. And I don't want people to ever think and feel just because you quote unquote downgrade at a title that you're taking a lesser role. It's not a lesser role. It's what you walk into it and how you believe it is for you. And so that's all I'm worried about is being happy and doing what I can do best here. So it's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
And that's what matters, right? I mean, you should be happy in your role, and that's what matters the most. And I feel like there is an inflation in titles anyway, and everyone has these fancy titles. But if you don't actually enjoy what you're doing and it's not, giving you something and you cannot evolve in this role or whatever it might be, then the title is useless.
Correct. Yes. No, 100%. And happiness is, you don't have to find happiness in your work either. And that's another piece that has been told to me that, I'm always, again, never settle, right? Go after your dreams, go after it and reach for the stars. But then there's people that would be like, I want to stay home and just have a family and work a job and have my side hustle, and that's fine too. You have to find your happiness in some way, shape, or form. But I've always been fueled by making impact in a business role or in a community where I can have influence and, be a role model for younger females and stuff like that. But regardless of what you do in life, whether it's business or pleasure, you need to be happy or find happiness.
For sure. But from that mentality that you were talking about there in your drive and your business, that talks a lot to another quote that I found that you have said, and it's don't wish things were easier, wish you were better.
Yes. Jim Rohn, the classic Jim Rohn. If that is something that you haven't listened, you should go listen to Jim Rohn on YouTube. He is Tony Robbins' mentor. And that is, he takes the most simple terms and simple philosophies and just flips it and makes you like blows your mind. Yeah. So it's, and that was one of the quotes that I got from him is just don't. And I actually listened to that today, which is so ironic, but yes, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Right. It's all about, what you can control. You make the choice. Right. And so it's every situation, it's working for you if you choose to see it. And so I'm mentoring a young gentleman right now, and that's the one thing he'll call me kind of what I used to do and just go off on rants. And I'd say, okay, well, what can you control? You can't control 90% of what you just told me you can't control, but you can control your attitude. You can control the way you respond. And so making those choices to say, like, this is going to work for me, right? I'm going to be better. I'm going to go learn how to negotiate and be a better negotiator for my next contract, right? I can control that and not just wish for something to happen. You got to go put that work in. You always got to put the work in.
So you're also a mentor for someone else, you said. So how did that happen? Was it someone that's, seeked you out and asked, or are you in some type of mentorship program or something like that?
Now, I've done that before. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn. So I'll do, phone calls and stuff like that. College students. But the one young gentleman I'm working with now, I met in Dallas, and it was just through the sports business world and helping him see, the path clearly. Understanding that there's a process and you have to be patient, but you have to grow in your pains. I'm the type of person, I don't have patience. And I always say, I am so bad with patience, but you have to go through the growing pains of yourself and learn more about you and become wiser. And the pain points are when you do pain points and you reflect on it, that's where you're going to have your most growth. And so I'm teaching him those processes and not just freaking out at the bigger picture, but looking at the little wins, the little details, and helping him grow in that regard. So, but yes, I just crossed him in the business world up in Dallas.
But that's awesome. I mean, you have a lot on your plate, I'm sure, but taking the time to, help the up and coming talent in the industry, that's awesome.
Oh yes. It's, I think everybody in any role that's, again, in the business world or in the soccer world that has some type of influence should use it. That's part of why we're all here. We should all be giving back in some way. And that's for me, like, I love to share anything I have, especially with younger people trying to get into places that I've been. I think that's super important.
Yeah. And that leads me in perfectly into my next question, which is, what is your best advice for young people who want to pursue a career in sports management?
Never settle. Never settle. Yeah, no, I would say never settle, but to also, be open-minded. When I was first starting out, or when I was in like the year hiatus from Poland to Claremore, Oklahoma, when I was coaching and I was figuring out Joel Vitality, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was on LinkedIn every day, getting on phone calls, asking for advice and trying, and not just in the sports industry, right? Go to places that make you uncomfortable. Go talk to a tech person that knows everything about AI and you don't, but you never know what you're going to learn, right? And so I highly encourage young people to take advantage of LinkedIn, take advantage of networking events, go in uncomfortable situations where you have to talk to people and share who you are, because you're going to learn so much by having conversations with people. You can't do this life on your own. And if you want to grow and become, the more relationships you can build, the better off you'll be in the long term.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, this podcast, 90% of the guests, I think I'm getting like that, reaching out on LinkedIn, sending a message. And as long as you're polite and you're acting in a professional manner, and, if you want advice or if you want a job, or most people are answering it to you. Of course, not everybody, but, many do.
Yes. No, I agree 100%. That drives me nuts when I get the messages on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, like, I have this service here, sign up on my calendar and and then they want to chart. And I'm like, that's not how you get business. That's not good business. You have to put time into relationships. And that's literally, relationships have given me every coaching job, every like everything I've done has been led through relationships and conversations that I've had with people to help either guide me or put a recommendation out for me. It's super important. I would also say too, is like being resilient in your obstacles, right? And building that mentality of understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and not letting the obstacles hold you back from anything. So again, taking the little bits and pieces, reflecting on the hardships of your journey and letting that guide you to learn more about who you are and what you can do.
I love that. You have a Jolt Vitality, you're having your job. I know that during your time in Poland also, this is your first podcast interview, you told me before.
Yes.
But it's not your first podcast. You were on the other side of the mic for a short while.
What are you talking?
Thinking in Motion.
Oh my gosh. That's another, so that's hilarious. Yeah. So, oh my God, I'm embarrassed.
Why? That was awesome. Why did you stop that?
Well, and so this is part of, oh man, In Motion has been something I've carried for years, but nobody knows about it.
It's
because
on the internet, so everyone can know about it.
Well, but people don't know to research it. So it's something that I definitely, it was something small, just the little moment that guide you every day. Right. And, I was doing, oh man, I did start that in Poland. That's crazy. So yeah, In Motion is I always call it my alter ego. I'm all in sports and just business and high vibes, good energy. And then I have this alter ego that is somewhat in motion, where it's my reading side, and I write poetry and I do stuff like that. And then the podcast happened because I wanted to, I'm very big on the why of what people do and why they do it. And so I love to, again, with mentorship, ask people, have you ever done the 7 levels deep exercise for why?
No. What is that?
So you should do this. It makes people cry. If you just go to Google and you Google 7 levels deep why exercise, it basically, you say, I want to be a general manager of a professional soccer team. And then you go 7 levels why. So you ask why. Well, I want to have an influence. Why do you want to have an influence? Well, like I never had an influence when I was a young kid. Why didn't you have that? Well, I wasn't in my family situation, and it goes deep, deep, deep. And I actually did this with my class when I taught at Rogers State. And I had one girl that offered to read it in front of class, and she ended up crying. And it was such a beautiful moment. But it's very impactful. And so when you talk about the why, that's what In Motion is all about. It's, that forward thoughts, forward motion is the catchphrase, and it's forward thoughts, forward motion in everything you do. And so a part of my why is, reaching that deeper side of myself that I never talk about, and I've never talked to anybody about outside of like maybe 1 or 2 people. And now I'm telling you on a podcast. But it's good because it's, it's a big proponent to being your authentic self. And so, when I talked about being alive here at the Dash and thriving in who I am in my work, I'm learning more to embrace those sides of myself and hopefully at one point, talk about it more and share it, because I guarantee you, if any of my friends from home listen to this that I grew up with at high school, and they're like, wait, you write poetry? Like you, Jess? Like you write and I'm like, and I have a whole thing, like I have books of writings, right? And so, but again, it's a piece that I've never felt the need to share, but it could be, so that is hilarious. You brought that up.
Yeah, I found that when I was doing the research, and then because as I said, I didn't see any other podcast that you appeared on, and then one podcast came up, and then I realized it was actually you who hosted that podcast, so that's why I found it was funny. So, but yeah, finding your why, I mean, and start with why, another book, stuff like that. That's an important thing. And as you said, maybe it's not something that you necessarily need to share with the world, like if for someone who listens, but just to maybe do that exercise, the 7 steps, and finding your why can help you a lot in your career.
100%. Yes, I would highly recommend, even if it's not your career, just your personal development. Really can dig deep on, or even you have a thought like, why am I wanting to, become a a millionaire influencer on TikTok, and you break down the why, and it comes down to like, well, I don't have self-worth. I feel unworthy in my life, and so I need validation from the outside to make me feel. So if I'm making money and I have millions of views, that I'm feeling worthy because of that. But at the end of the day, you're still lacking inside, and it's amazing when you study the ego and your subconscious mind versus your conscious mind and your thoughts. And there's so much that plays into it that I don't think young people take time, because we're so heavily influenced by social media, we all are. But yes, the why is very, very powerful, very powerful.
For sure. Is there something I haven't asked you yet that you want to mention?
I think we covered a lot. We covered more than what I was expecting. So no, no, I think we're good. I really wanted to make sure we talked about the dash, just because it's been life-changing the last 2 months. It's literally been 2 months. I moved here 2 months ago today. So it's crazy. But no, other than that, I think we're good. Yeah.
Awesome. Before I let you go, the last question that I ask everyone is, who in your network do you think would be a good guest for this podcast?
No, you gotta interview my boss, Alex Singer, the general manager. Already told her about it, and she's the 2 months I've been here, she's been such an influence on me, and she's someone with her past work, and I would honestly want to listen to her podcast and hear more about her. But she would be someone you need to talk to from a sports business world for sure.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Jessie, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for inviting me. Very, very grateful to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportmpodcast.